Hello. Hi. Did you know that of all the food produced in the world, 1/3 of that is wasted? And can you guess how much of that food waste consists of bread and grains? I'll let you think about that for a sec. And what if I told you that the bar industry had the potential to zero that waste? And this is just one of the many ways that the bar industry is working towards a more sustainable future. I'll get back to that in a sec. My name is Hardeep Rehal. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark, with Indian roots. I've been in the bar industry for about 20 years, where I won multiple awards, and the latest being placing 4th globally in the Diageo World Class competition. I have a background as an engineering student from DTU, and now I have a bar called Bloom in the center of Copenhagen, and a company called Cocktail Solutions DK, where we do R&D in flavor, bar consultancy for drinks and beverages, but also across other industries. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today, to be invited as a speaker at the 3rd Global Gastro Economy Summit. And I've always wanted to visit Turkey and see your beautiful Syrian country, so thank you for the invitation. I know that this summit is a very food, tech, and economy-heavy summit, gathering some of the biggest players in the game, which is why I'm particularly honored to be able to represent the bar scene and bridge the gap between the food world and the drink world. Now, my call is called Breaking Traditions, the new Nordic approach to sustainability in cocktails, because our bar scene has gone through an impressive evolution. We've started from being just an addition to the hotels and bars, to the hotels and restaurants, to becoming one of the main attractions. And now gastro tourists also travel for bars, which is absolutely fantastic. So how did we get here, and how does breaking tradition play a role in that? A lot of influences has helped the bar scene evolve to what it is today, but some of them had a bigger impact than others. One of the biggest ones is the new Nordic Kitchen Manifesto, a manifesto drawn up in 2004 by Claus Meyer, René Redzepi, and 12 other Nordic chefs on how to redefine food and handle food and cook food. This is carefully constructed with 10 paragraphs, but some of the key points are sourcing local, using seasonal products, promote and work with local producers, reinvent the old with modern techniques, and involve the local community. The kitchen has always been the biggest asset for the bar world, and of course, what has happened in the food world has echoed its way into the bar world and helped shape us. Now, we've had quite success with this new modern cuisine, and one of the reasons is we don't have a long and rich food culture, just like our more southern neighbors, like Spain, Italy, and France, and Turkey, which means we've had kind of a clean slate to reinvent ourselves. It's easier to reinvent ourselves when you kind of start from basically having nothing. Now, tradition and heritage is important to culture, but it can also be a hindrance every now and then. The best example I have is Massimo Bottura from Osteria Francescana, with his signature dish, 6 tortellinis walking in a broth. The amount of battle and struggle he had to do with the local Italian community to convince them to serve 6 tortellinis instead of 20 was crazy, and it took him years and years to convince them otherwise. But eventually, when he broke that tradition, and he reinvented the modern Italian cuisine, he became the best restaurant in the world. So sometimes it is necessary to break tradition to promote innovation. Now, following the guidelines of breaking tradition has helped change the way of what traditional food and drinks look like. Here you see a new Nordic modern plate of food, a new Nordic modern cocktail, and all the ingredients here are sustainable, in season, locally sourced, and even the plate and the glass are from local producers. So sustainability hasn't been one of the key factors from the beginning, but just by following the guidelines of the manifesto, we become sustainable by proxy. Now, the bar industry has also broken a fair bit of traditions, and the biggest one is, instead of just mixing flavors together, we have started to extract flavors. And this has opened doors, many doors, to pursue new and modern techniques, especially to work with sustainability. Now, here you see some of the key sustainability techniques we're using in the bar world. The first one is called 𝗬𝘀𝗧𝗏, where we use the leftover peels from citrus fruits and extract them in oils, minimizing waste. Next, we have cordials, where we use bits and scraps from leftover veggies and fruits and stabilizing them with sugars and acid, again, minimizing waste. Fermentation can be used in many, many ways, but one of the ways we use it best is, for example, using wine and champagne that is almost gone bad, re-fermenting that into vinegar, and then we have, of course, have vacuum distillation, which is maximizing extraction in many possible ways, again, maximizing flavor and minimizing waste. One of the techniques that amplified during the pandemic for the bar world, during the lockdown, was something called super juicing. We were in a situation where we were under lockdown and it was necessary for us to do cocktails to go in a means of making a bit more money. And by making cocktails in bottles and cans, we needed to prolong the shelf life. Now, citrus fruits have a very short shelf life, and pasteurizing them alters the flavor, and that's where super juicing became a great alternative. Super juicing is basically where you take a citrus fruit, take the peels off, and extract the peels in oil, with the oils with sugars and acids, and dilute it with water. Then you take the remaining fruit, you press that, and you blend everything together, extending the yield to up to 8 times, and extending the shelf lives for several weeks. Now, this is one of the techniques that we was forced to use during lockdown, but we've taken to heart now in everyday use in the bar to work more sustainably. Now, all of this I've talked about, all of these techniques, how can they be put to something that is a bit more understandable? Why not the sustainable cocktail? And this is a good example of that. In this cocktail you see here, we use a local Danish whiskey called 𝗬𝗥 from the west coast of Denmark, locally produced. We have a cordial that I mentioned before, made from the leftover bits and pieces of rhubarb, minimizing waste. And we have pickled beetroot, so a autumn-winter root preserved to prolong its longevity, and using that as a flavoring agent. And kombucha, made from spent coffee, so coffee that has been used for an espresso already, retaining flavor, fermenting that into a kombucha. The glassware is locally sourced from right around the corner, and is served chilled with no ice, minimizing that waste as well. Now, this drink is a great example of what the modern sustainable cocktail is capable of, and this is just one example of many that the bars are using today. Now, remember the first slide, where I asked you how much of the food waste was consisting of bread and grains? The answer is 30%. So, how can the bar scene battle that? By taking sustainability into the local community. And that is whatever local community means for you. For me, I live in a bread-eating country, which is why I launched a project called Rebright Society. And this is just one example of how the bar industry can go to the local community and work sustainability and minimize food waste. Here I'm collecting stale bread from local bakeries that otherwise would have been thrown out and turning that into beverages. The most popular of them all is what I call the rye bread coffee brew. So I'm taking a traditional technique, such as brewing a coffee. Instead of using coffee, I'm taking rye bread, baking and toasting that, and grinding that into a coffee-like powder, and then brewing that as a coffee. The flavors are very, very similar, and you're minimizing food waste. So many bars are now working with the local communities to minimize food waste, and this is just one example of many. So all of this I've talked about, and all of these examples I've given, has been used in the new Nordic bar scene, but not only in Denmark and Copenhagen. These initiatives has been used all over the world. So how can we learn from this? How can all of these things help us shape a more sustainable future? The first is break tradition. We can get stuck in our old ways of thinking, of habits of what to do, what we've always been done. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. But sometimes we need to challenge that, ask the why question to be able to move forward. The second is food waste is flavor waste. We've been programmed by society in a throwaway culture. If we learn to look at the potential of flavor and everything, we're less inclined to throw it away and reuse it, being more sustainable. And ultimately, bridge the gap. Integrate the bars in your sustainable thought process when you're making new venues. Our innovative approach to sustainability can be an asset. We're liquid cooking, basically. And this can be an asset for you and also strengthen the gastronomy. Also include bars and bartenders we can help you how to integrate bars in your new venues in a more sustainable way. The many assets to be used.